Joe. Recording.
Ugh.
You're just really not fond of Joe's Gazarts, or what was that sound again? Like an onomatopoeia for something, right?
Yeah.
It kind of sounds like an onomatopoeia for diarrhea.
Interesting.
Let's see Paul Allen's diarrhea.
Welcome to Butcher Block Horror Podcast,
Welcome.
where we exhume horror movies from the past and cut into what makes them so delectable. I'm Kane,
I am JD.
And I am Joe.
Hey, Joe.
and today we're going to be having a brief conversation about zombies in film and zombies throughout history.
Kane, what the fuck?
Zombies in film, zombies in history. Ah!
I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
That's fine.
That
That's
was
fine.
a lot. That was a lot.
We're going to teach you a lot about living, a little about love, you know.
Mostly about eating the flesh of the living.
Sure. Which could be considered love, you know.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, so we're going to be throwing zombies onto the slab and then carving up our favorite portions to force feed to you, our unwitting victims.
Is that because we only hurt the ones we love?
If you enjoy the taste of these feasts of fright, then give us a like and subscribe on YouTube, making sure to click the bell. You could also go to our website, wegiveyoubbrainworms.com. This will let you take a look at what?
I was just agreeing with you. That's a website that we can go to if we want.
Yeah, you can go to wegiveyoubbrainworms.com. There's a link to our Funky Fresh Discord community channel, as well as our Patreon, which will allow you to directly support the show.
Fill Kane's nostrils with booger sugar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And JD with gumballs, and Joe with whiskey.
Yeah.
That's right. That's the things we love.
That's how we get through the day.
I can't even remember the last time I ate a gumball. We're really just lying to these people.
You should go to the candy shop and buy one from the nice gentleman in the white jacket behind the counter.
Oh, you mean the guy who was in a restraining jacket?
No, what?
What kind of candy stores do you go to?
Yeah, I was just thinking like an old-timey candy shop, but you took it in a weird direction.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Are there any old-timey candy shops in Chicago?
the ones with the padded ceiling.
No, the JD, no.
I feel like there have to be.
Yeah, there are. There's a few.
It's Margie's, right?
There's a place up in, I want to say maybe Lakeview that's kind of got a cute little vibe to it. Got some, some blackjack bubblegum or some, Beemans.
Do they wear frocks?
String ties.
Do the customers?
No. Why would the customers wear frocks, JD?
Well, why not?
Why would they? It's a candy shop. The person that runs, no, stop. Let's just.
So what about this history of zombies we so discussed moments ago?
I don't care.
That's true.
I hate this room and everyone in it.
Gosh, that's harsh, Joe. Harsh.
Yeah, it is. All right. Well, I'm not entirely sure how we want to start this. Do we want to just start with Joe so that he could get his words out of the way, and then
Yeah,
we
that's
can?
fine. Yeah, because I know you nerds are gonna gas on about George Romero and fucking
Look, shut up. All right. I don't
bladder
need
effects.
your
for 20
negativity.
minutes.
All right.
That sounds pretty positive to me.
I have enough of my own. All right.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're not exactly like you're positive, full of piss and vinegar.
Yeah.
None of the three of us are Mary Poppins, so
Just piss.
A teaspoon of urine makes the urine go down.
No
Yeah.
vinegar, just piss.
Yep.
But yeah, I can talk about some zombie things for a minute if you want.
Yeah,
That sounds
if
great.
you would, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm gonna start in the most annoying way ever.
Oh, great. I'm super excited about that.
A zombie is defined as an undead being resurrected through magic, science, or mysticism who feasts upon the flesh of the living. As a side note, I know this isn't our book podcast, but if you're writing an essay, don't start it with the dictionary defines because it's tedious and it clearly sounds like you're playing for word count.
Did you just do something tedious playing for word count, Joe?
Yeah, but then I realized that I did it.
So that makes it okay.
If we discuss it, it changes. Yeah.
Yeah, don't do that like we do that. Don't
Like we do,
as...
yeah.
All right, so now that we know what zombies are,
Sure.
Joe, what do you want to tell us about what you found out?
I don't know anything.
I mean, no one really knows anything if you think about it.
I don't know shit. I'm very stupid and very tired.
Would you consider yourself a zombie right now?
Ugh, God damn it.
A.
Oh, like a potty pool zombie?
Nice.
No. The term zombie was originally invented by the band The Cranberries in 1994 in their hit song Zombie.
I hate you. I hate all of this.
Oh, you mean zombie?
Yeah.
Okay.
So then Victor Halperin was a time traveler and listened to that Cranberry song and then went back in time.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Which then inspired the Cranberries to write that song.
Oh, this is so weird. All right. Well, time is a flat circle.
Yeah.
And everyone is now dumber than they were before they listened to this. So
It was inevitable.
I guess I'll actually talk about some serious things.
I guess.
But yeah, the term zombie comes from Haitian folklore. It was first recorded in 1819 in a book of Brazilian history by the poet Robert Southey in the form of Zambizio Mbi. There's a lot of etymology and linguistics between Haitian Creole and various West African languages. So it's murky where, if anywhere, the actual word zombie originated.
Right.
Because there are a bunch of words in a bunch of languages that are basically variations of the word zombie. Some linguists link it to the Congo word mvumbi, which is like a ghost or a revenant or a corpse that's animated by a soul. And yeah, and there's a lot of that going around. And so it's kind of murky where the word or even the concept came from. And, every folklore, in every culture has some kind of a variation of a myth of a corpse that comes back to life.
Right.
And then that's really my bit. I'll pass the baton to you.
All right, JD.
So yeah, I have a slightly different slant here. I'm going way back.
How far back?
I'm talking about the ancient Greeks, and they did some peculiar things with giant rocks. Some archaeologists found several instances where, for whatever reason, they would have a specific person and they would pin them under giant rocks, presumably to prevent them from escaping the tomb in the event that they should reanimate. And they know that because they were already in the tomb and they were already concealed. I mean, completely locked into this vault or whatever, they constructed. And yet they would still put large, heavy rocks on top of the corpse. Archaeologists kind of thought that maybe there was a superstition involved in that. So there's a lot of that type of thing happening in history. There are several biblical descriptions of dead coming back to life. I thought that was kind of interesting. In the book of Ezekiel, there's a depiction of Ezekiel appearing in like some type of boneyard filled with skeletons, and a transformation occurs where the skeletons become whole again, kind of like Frank from Hellraiser.
Oh, nice.
The only words in that sentence I heard were come and whole.
All right.
Joe, can you restrain yourself a little bit?
What kind of videos have you been watching lately?
Yeah. We don't...
Have been. I'm watching them right now while we record this.
That makes sense. Then I understand how you pecked those out of the list. So.
Sure.
So yeah, this transformation occurs and the skeletons become whole. They begin gaining, tendons, muscles, flesh, and all of that starts to sort of reamass over the bones until they are walking around, but they're still not taking in breath. So they're essentially walking dead. There's an interesting quote also in the book of Isaiah referring to the dead coming back to life. Thy dead men shall live. Together with my dead body shall they rise, awake and sing. Ye that dwell in dust, for thy dew is as the dew of herbs, and the earth shall cast out the dead.
Mountain Dew?
Something like that.
All right.
So they were doing the dew.
Yeah.
Extreme.
Yeah, that was intense. X Games,
Yeah.
Warped Tour side stage type energy.
Right on.
Mountain, definitely.
Mountain Dew Code Red.
Code Dead.
Yeah.
Mountain Dew, if you're hearing this, give us a sponsorship deal.
We don't want your sponsorship deal. Don't listen to Joe.
I want free Mountain Dew.
I don't want, no. Good. I can't remember the last time I drank Mountain Dew.
That's a good thing.
Probably because it infected my brain and I went on a killing spree. And
It's straight poison.
It is.
You shouldn't.
when I came down from my Mountain Dew high, all memories were gone. Just no idea what happened.
Just caffeine and high fructose corn syrup
And yellow number 5.
yeah. Mountain Dew, give us a sponsorship deal.
I don't want your sponsorship deal.
So in 1962, now I'm just kind of going down this list of research I made where that was the biblical reference. Now I'm talking about some real stuff that's happened. 1962, there were a few isolated incidents of Haitian voodoo being the culprit behind a supposed zombie. There was a Haitian man, I'm probably going to butcher his name terribly, but I want to say it's Chaimovich Narcisse, and he was hospitalized with severe respiratory issues. Chaimovich slips into a coma and presumably dies and is buried. 18 years later, though, a man approaches a young woman named Angelina Narcisse at a local market, and he starts to insist that he's her brother. And then finally, he was positively identified by doctors and family and friends as Chaimovich. He was buried. They knew for sure that he was buried. So what they suspect is that maybe he was given some type of drug that slowed his heart rate and pulse down.
Is this like the...
kind of like the serpent and the rainbow
Yeah.
sort of concept?
You take the pufferfish poison and a bunch of other things and grave
Take
dirt.
the lime and the coconut and shake it all
Yeah,
up.
exactly. So then in 1997, we've got an article published in a British medical journal described 3 verifiable accounts of a drug-induced paralysis, where a person was given a compound, some sort of plant substance, I would assume, or who knows. But anyway, the people would appear to be dead. They were buried.
We don't know anything about consuming plant substances at the Butcher Block podcast.
Yeah, we don't know about these things. We're just...
Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about.
So the people were dead, technically, not actually dead, but very, very close to death, buried.
They were almost dead. Or mostly dead. I'm sorry. Mostly dead.
Yes, mostly dead.
Yep.
And so they were later found to be alive in their grave. And I happen to know a little bit about the expression saved by the bell, because they would often have a...
Oh, yeah. The premature burial.
Exactly. I guess the doctors back then...
They'd have like a string that would go all the way down into the coffin.
Yeah.
Yep. And the presumably deceased person would jingle the bell if they were still around. A few people had been saved by the bell in history, so...
Edgar Allan Poe was actually terrified of being prematurely buried. He had a whole thing that he wanted built into his tomb to avoid it.
And I would say that very easily leads to the whole idea that type of horror, zombie horror, is a measure of the culture's anxiety.
Oh, sure.
There was that crappy The Nun movie that had it saddens me, but it had this great scene where there was an entire cemetery with the string and bells, but those people had been buried for, over 100 years.
Sure.
And as one of the young lady is walking through this cemetery, all of the bells start ringing, and it was like, whoa, that's fucking cool. But the rest of the movie was a trash fire. So.
Yeah, I heard it wasn't very good. Only weirdos like you have watched it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Back up off me.
I saw the title was The Nun, and I decided not to watch some.
You didn't miss anything. It wasn't great.
So yeah, as far as all the fun stuff in history, anyway, I may pass the baton to Kane for a little bit. I'll be able to take it back in a bit, but...
Right. The big thing that I wanted to really talk about was zombies and their introduction into film. The movie White Zombie is often listed as being one of the first zombie movies.
1932.
Yeah, but this was all Haitian zombie folklore, where it's like voodoo magic has raised these corpses. And then you had another one, which is I Walked with a Zombie in 1943. Those kind of started injecting zombies into popular culture, but it really kind of blew up what we would get to know, like what you would see as like Walking Dead and all those different things that we see today really come from George Romero's Night of the Living Dead in 1968. And what's funny is that they never refer to them as zombies in the movie Night of the Living Dead.
May I add one detail, though, about the influence of a book by William Seabrook, The Magic Island. That experience that he lived and wrote that book based on, that was heavily influential over the film White Zombie. Just wanted to throw that in there.
Excellent. Yeah, the zombie that we know and love today, that comes from Night of the Living Dead. We've talked about George a lot, and the fact that he's basically the godfather of the modern zombie. There have been other instances of zombies that have kind of shown up at different points in film history, but they weren't called zombies. They were almost like vampires. They drank blood or that kind of thing. Not the hordes of the dead wandering around eating everything that's alive. And that's really where zombies kind of come into it. And now they're everywhere.
You know, if I could throw one more thing in, it kind of ties into what you're saying pretty perfectly. William Seabrook, the author of The Magic Island, he was depicting basically people slaving for American manufacturers working 18-hour shifts. And in his book, he describes the look in some of the people's eyes that he saw, you know, while working, and they were just beyond a point of exhaustion that he had never seen before in a human being. And their hands and some, you know, their skin, their flesh was just worn almost to the bone from just working these long extended periods of time with no rest, no food. People were collapsing, and so they were being exploited badly. And I think some of the idea of the zombie was born in that.
Yeah, for sure.
The thing with the Romero zombie movie and almost all movies regarding zombies from that point on has a social commentary about what people are. In multiple movies, they refer to the zombies as us. You know, like, those are us. That's what we are. It's just cut down to the raw nerve of it.
Right.
When the dead rise in Romero movies, they're essentially reptile brain. They have some essence of the memory of when they were alive. So they go to the malls, they go back to where they worked, and they kind of do those jobs, you know, throughout his Of the Dead stuff.
It's a way of getting the viewer to be introspective in a way. It's like showing us in some disgusting form. Like you said, they are us, you know, but showing them sort of rotted and decomposed. It's like you're showing this grotesque side of humanity through that.
No, I definitely agree with that. And I think that with the Romero films, you start to see the zombies evolving. You know, with Dawn of the Dead, they're wandering around the mall, which is a big slight, I think, on capitalism in general.
Oh, for sure.
And then with Day of the Dead, Bub is a really good example. Bub is not disinclined to eat people. He'll eat it if you give it to him, but he doesn't actively pursue eating flesh. He develops a relationship with the mad doctor, and because of that relationship, you know, actually has an emotional attachment to him. And doesn't start becoming like a killer until he finds his human dad killed. And then he's like, oh, that's it. I'm getting revenge. And then it continues into the latter movies, you know, Land of the Dead, all those movies. The zombies have much more cognizance, not Return of the Living Dead cognizance. They have like this faded memory of who they were, and they attempt to reenact the things they did when they were alive. But ultimately, it's a big kind of fuck you to Western civilization and what we kind of turn ourselves into. Overall, I would say that from the Night of the Living Dead, you had a bunch of cash grab movies tried to make money off of the popularity off of Night of the Living Dead. And then once you get into the 80s and 90s, everybody was making zombie movies, and not all of them were very good. When you miss the point, like Zack Snyder in the 2000s, like you miss the point of the zombie movie. It's not fun just watching. I mean, it is. You can enjoy zombies eating people if the special effects are done right. But I feel like if you're trying to make a serious zombie movie that is actually scary, I feel like you have to have the social commentary in the background of it, or you can't connect with the characters. Yeah, like Lucio Fulci's Zombie is a very fun movie, and I absolutely love that movie. But I don't give a shit about the characters. As far as I'm concerned, they're all just a buffet, and I'm fine seeing them get eaten in very grotesque ways. But in Dawn of the Dead, you know, like I care about those characters, and that's established for me. Like I have, you know, an annoyance with Flyboy.
Mhm.
You know, I'm fond of both Francine, Ken Foree's character, and Raj. I like their characters. They appeal to me. And that's where the horror comes from, because the zombies aren't even really that scary in Dawn of the Dead. They're almost pitiable.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think that as time moves on, you know, you start to see things like Serpent in the Rainbow kind of goes back towards those Haitian voodoo roots that the zombie comes from.
There was a film in between White Zombie in 1932 and Night of the Living Dead that was another Haitian voodoo depiction. It had to do with a potion that creates and transforms a woman into a zombie, and that was called King of the Zombies in 1941. Real similar concept to White Zombie.
But I mean, more than anything, you have, up until Night of the Living Dead, most depictions of zombies were Haitian zombies. They're voodoo zombies. I don't really know where to go from here. Because, I mean, all I have to talk about is the fact that, you know, in the 2000s, there was a resurgence of people appreciating zombie movies.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that is owed to the graphic novel, The Walking Dead.
Right.
Yeah.
Those were intense. You know, they focused on the characters. Like, it took the Romero kind of recipe for a good zombie story and amplified it.
Right.
It became such a popular graphic novel and was such a well done graphic novel that ended up being turned into a television show, which has been going for like 11 or 9 seasons, 10 seasons.
Yeah, it's in its final season, although they're spinning it off into like 3 other shows. So,
Well, I mean, you've got Fear of the Walking Dead.
yeah.
You know, you've got so many different Walking Dead spinoffs.
Yeah, they're doing a bunch of spin-offs as the main show ends.
The thing that I was kind of getting to is that the more kind of fucked up society becomes, the more I feel like zombie films become super important.
Right.
Right. The anxiety level goes way up.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they are just a concept that preys on our deepest fears.
Although it kind of feels like as we get into the 2020s, because like you said, the zombies really had a moment in like the 2000s and the 2010s. And it kind of feels like that's waning a little bit as we get into the 2020s. The Walking Dead's still chugging, but it doesn't seem to have the let's talk about it on Monday morning relevance that it had when it first got going.
And that happens pretty consistently throughout history. The 90s weren't very great for at least commercially successful zombie films.
Mm-hmm.
You have a couple of weird ones in there, and we didn't cover them because of just kind of how weird they are, but there was a movie called I, Zombie in the 90s where a researcher gets bitten by a zombie and catalogs his turn. And it goes through a point where he has to murder people to eat them so that he could keep his sentience, and then tries to kill himself and it doesn't work. And, you know, he ended up becoming just like a messy corpse by the end of it. But that was a very interesting take on the zombie movie, but it wasn't commercially viable. I don't know that many people that have seen it that I can be like having a conversation with. Again, the 90s weren't great for zombie movies. They popped back up into the 2000s. A lot of that could probably be given to 28 Days Later. 28 Days Later definitely revived at least in film, zombie movies.
And I think also in just events in the world, catastrophic events like 9/11 supercharged a zombie resurgence. You know, the level of anxiety was driven wildly, and then things like zombie films started to be created more rapidly, and the taste for that sort of thing kind of was exacerbated.
You know, another kind of trope is zombie Nazi movies.
Oh, yeah.
Like Zombie Lake.
Yeah, like those movies, you know, they definitely had a pretty consistent run through the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Not many of them are very good. Don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of movies where Nazis get murdered or video games where Nazis get murdered. But the zombie Nazi was always just kind of for me.
Didn't Full Moon Entertainment do at least one zombie Nazi movie?
Yeah, but the one that I was leading up to that I could cite was a movie that was released in 2009 called Dead Snow.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably one of the best zombie Nazi movies that I've seen. It's a pretty interesting Norwegian horror comedy. And it had a sequel, and the sequel was fucking good too.
Nice.
The sequel had undead Nazis versus undead Russian soldiers.
That's fun.
It was pretty fun.
So the Russians got to kill them twice.
Yep, it was a whole thing.
Hmm.
But needless to say, I think that we'll see a slowdown. We'll see zombie movies and zombie media just in general kind of dissipate.
Mhm.
But it'll always come back because, you can't kill.
It's like bell bottoms,
zombies.
Okay.
I was gonna do you can't keep the dead down forever is what I was gonna say, but you know what? We'll just go with bell bottoms.
That was way smarter.
No, everything we do is dumb. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say. Does anybody else?
No, I think we talked into a microphone for half an hour.
Yeah, fairly well.
All right, yeah. Well, then let's go ahead and move on. We're interested in your thoughts on zombie movies and zombies in general.
Well, Kane is.
Shut up, Joe. If you would like to discuss this more with us, you can find us at wegiveyoubranworms.com,
Yeah.
as well as most of the places that podcasts live. Send us a message, comment, review
Follow us on
us.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Follow us on Instagrams.
Send JD pictures of your feet via Instagram.
I thought we were talking about wounds, lacerations,
Oh, yeah.
oils, and-
Rashes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not trying to get JD a bunch of feet pics, all right? We're trying to get him important images.
Right.
Sure.
For science.
Stuff that'll gross me out.
Exactly. Also, we warn you against forgetting to like, follow, and subscribe on the YouTube.
And you can click the bell if you want.
Yeah, I guess. Go ahead, click the bell.
Bye, everybody.
Au revoir. Kane, what the fuck? Mountain, definitely.